So I made some recent changes to the car collection. We fucked up.
How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I just spent the last 2 days of my life fully cleaning up and organizing this shop. What a freaking mess this was. Something cool though too, we finally got all the cars inside of these shops. 2016 STI that I literally just recently got. I had this car for about a month and it is already broken. I did try to kind of fix this very quick off camera. Obviously this is my daily driver, so not a good time when this thing is broken down. For some reason, whenever I drive this car now, it tends to overheat, and it does this in a very weird way. I initially overheated this thing one time. I saw the coolant temp just skyrocketing, so I pulled over. It was blowing coolant out of the overflow tank, and I had no idea what happened. It happened out of nowhere. It wasn't beating on the car or nothing like that. Kid you not though, I had this thing for only about a month. I did put around 1,500 to 2,000 miles on it. Problem free. This car was so good to me up until this point. Now we're gonna start in the nightmare of the engine bay of this STI. Holding pressure, which means everything in our cooling system seems to be tight, leak free. Now hopefully it doesn't take more than 3 gallons. I don't really think it will. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and run this thing. I got everything buttoned back up. We went ahead and filled it with the tool. We also do have some water in here. I know it's kind of hard to tell. Obviously, like I said, we're gonna be flushing the water back out, but this is where you wanna bleed the air out of it. All right, so we know our coolant and oil aren't mixing. I did put a thermostat in it, just a random thing I just tried to do to see if it would fix it. So we got those 2 new things, and I know the water pump in this thing is newer as well, since it does have a newer motor in it. So pressure stayed, everything's good. I'm a little confused myself. We did a couple other things off camera just to test and try and figure out what is going on with this thing. Typical Subaru stuff. We blew a head gasket somewhere. It's actually getting progressively worse. There is exhaust gases going into the cooling system. And of course, we are actually now burning coolant, which means coolant is now entering the cylinders. So obviously that doesn't drive, and now this does not drive. This drives fine, but it's not finished, and I don't want to daily a LS swapped Hyundai. Anyhow, guys, we're gonna start taking some stuff off of here. We're probably gonna take the battery out, top mount intercooler, and pretty much get this thing prepped to pull the intake manifold off of it, and pretty much just strip it down to the block itself, almost the long block. We're gonna try to pull this thing out of here pretty efficiently and quickly, and hopefully we're not gonna find anything too bad. I'm a little scared. Pray for me, guys. We got some of the easier stuff out of the way, like the battery, the rad and fans, the intake system, and the top mount intercooler. We're draining the fluids right now, and honestly, I don't see anything too hateful. We got the alternator out and then the alternator belt, not too bad. What we're gonna do now is take the power steering pump out and the AC compressor, and instead of disconnecting the lines and making a mess and then adding fluids that we're gonna have to get back to, what you can do is just unbolt both pumps and then just kind of set them off to the side. Now you wanna do that pretty carefully so you don't kink or pinch any of these lines too bad. Now this is where the mess begins. So I'm trying to get down to the last bolt on the power steering pump, and we got all these vacuum lines and all that kind of running right here. So we're gonna try to just make our way through the jungle and get down in there. Oh my goodness, what a mess. Gotta undo all 10 electrical connections within the vicinity. Now keep in mind, you might see me be a little aggressive with certain things while removing them, and that's only because we're pretty much gonna try to redo a lot of the stuff up here. Obviously what needs to stay will stay. However, I do wanna kind of simplify the engine bay as much as possible. If this thing does miraculously happen to be all right, and I do continue to daily drive it, it would be nice to have something very serviceable and not have to deal with all of this each time it breaks. And we all know it's a Subaru, so we're gonna try to make that easier for us. So, I don't know if I explained it already, but we're gonna go through it again as I slowly take this bolt out. There are a good bit of problems now with this car. It did have a boost leak ever since I pretty much got it. It was not making the boost it was supposed to, and I'm almost kind of sus that it was a head gasket the whole time, but either way, then we blew a head gasket and got a cylinder 1 misfire. So that was a pretty dramatic turn for owning it for the little bit that I did. All right, we got that last bolt out. We're gonna go ahead and just pick this boy up. Move them to a different school district. Fucking small ratchet on these large bolts because I don't got my tools with me. Breaking knucks out here. All right, so in order to get the AC pump out cleanly, we're gonna have to go ahead and take out the secondary air injection pump. And luckily we are gonna be doing away with this and not reinstalling it, so. Yo, that was not supposed to happen. But you know what? We're deleting it anyways, so that's fine. Now, with the secondary air injection system out, we can go ahead and take out the AC pump like we were going to start. All right, this is the moment I've been waiting for. We are finally draining the engine oil. I don't know what's gonna come out, and let's just hope it looks like normal oil, which that does not. This is where the Subaru sits as of right now. I got it up on jack stands. We're gonna go ahead and put a jack underneath the transmission and kind of raise the trans up a little bit. Finish out getting all the bell housing bolts, and then we're gonna get ready to pull this sucker out of here, pull the heads, and we're gonna find out pretty much what we're in for right now. Just a little side note, I am working to try to get this thing to a shop at some point here soon. The wide body is going to take a professional at this point. As far as painting it goes, and then honestly the front fender fitment is just not exactly where I want it to be yet, so I'm gonna let a professional handle it. They'll do it a lot better than I could. So not important right now, we're gonna stick to this thing. Here's all the parts that we pulled off of this car. Motor's out on the stand. We are ready to continue taking this thing apart and just dive a little deeper into it. And hopefully we can get the full story and understand exactly what all is wrong with this thing. So we did take the up pipe and the turbo out along with all the lines and everything else. The only thing I want to point out with this thing is the crack we have on the back here. Took the crank pulley off and all the timing covers. And as you can see now, we can kind of get a visual on all the timing components. All this stuff is very, very new, it seems. This was actually recently done. I don't know how tight these are supposed to be, so that's maybe a little alarming, but for the most part, I think everything here is good, but obviously we're gonna be taking it all off and pulling the cylinder heads anyways. So next up for us, we are going to be pulling the header off, and then we are also going to be pulling this coolant pipe that goes across the top of the motor here off. And basically we're gonna be stripping this down to a bare block. Finally got this thing torn down the whole way. Head gaskets, heads, everything is off the motor. It's pretty much a bare block at this point now. And obviously we're gonna start on this side of the motor because the other side's actually okay. It is worse than I thought. Right off the bat, you can tell immediately. There's coolant obviously in here, and this piston's all clean, which isn't good. Now I did look over the head gaskets pretty quickly. It's kind of hard to tell, they're old. They are the OEM head gaskets, which was not what I thought was in here. This is, like I said, a built motor that was put in. It's got a forged rotating assembly. I thought it was a failed head gasket, which might have been initially, but now we have a nice little crack going into the cooling jacket right here, kind of down the side.
We fucked up.
That is a pretty bad crack. So what was happening is it was just pushing combustion gases into the cooling system, and definitely not the ending I was looking for. This block is toast. I'm going to be doing some research and trying to figure out what way I want to go about this. Honestly, guys, Subarus just have a lot of problems. And if you don't know, I have a 1997 Mitsubishi Eclipse. That thing needs like fully restored, and I don't feel like putting a whole bunch of money in this to kind of get it fixed up. And if I were to do it to keep it, I would probably mod it. Unfortunately, I just don't think I'm gonna get into that. I'm gonna get it back together and obviously record that, but don't know yet, guys. Obviously, I'll have a video on it. Thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna end it off there. I'm not in a good mood. That definitely sucks. I am in a decent mood though, because we actually just ripped that thing today, and honestly, that just makes me smile every time. But RIP to the Subaru. Let me get an RIP in the chat.